We're going to have a look at what's grabbing the newspaper headlines around the world. Of course, an awful lot of focus, if you like, on that deadly shooting in Charleston, South Carolina.
That's right. That's a developing story, of course. Details are emerging. Let's look at actually the local press in Charleston, South Carolina. Papers there are actually calling it the worst mass shooting in Charleston history. You can see this is the Post and Courier that says 9 dead after this hate crime. That's what police have been calling it. This shooting, of course, at that church, Mother Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. Now, police are saying that victims had gathered there Wednesday night for a evening prayer session when the shooting occurred. Police are still searching for the shooter. They're describing him as a clean-shaven white male in his early 20s who has sandy blonde hair and a small build.
And the church where the shooting happened is one of Charleston's oldest, isn't it? Very well-known black church in the area.
Absolutely. If we go back to the Post and Courier, they have an article about this very historic church. Now, it's affectionately called Mother Emanuel. It's home to one of the largest and oldest black congregations in the regions. It's really been a landmark in Charleston for more than 150 years, and its history is actually very closely intertwined to Charleston history. One of the church's founders, Denmark Vesey, tried to lead a tragically failed slave rebellion in 1822, and that actually drove the church underground for decades. What's interesting is that rebellion was actually set for June 16th, 1822, and this article points out that the shooting happened on June 17th. It's unclear whether or not that's a coincidence. It is really a major story, though. The Washington Post reports that the Republican presidential candidate, Jeb Bush, had actually scheduled to hold a campaign event in Charleston, South Carolina today. That event has been canceled in the wake of this shooting. As I said, though, this is really a developing story, and we'll be bringing you all the details as they trickle in.
Move on to another story then. Papers continuing to focus as well on the death of a top al-Qaeda leader in Yemen.
That's right. Yesterday we were reporting about this. Papers were talking about this al-Qaeda's second-in-command, Nasser al-Wuhayshi. Now, what's interesting is he's reportedly killed in a lethal U.S. drone strike. This is an exclusive article in the Washington Post today that reports that the CIA actually didn't know in advance that he was among the suspected militants who were being targeted. Essentially, the CIA got lucky in this drone strike. And this article points out that this incident really puts the spotlight on the CIA's use of a very controversial targeting method called these signature strikes. Now, human rights groups say that these strikes produce way too much collateral damage, too many civilian deaths. The article quotes U.S. authorities who stress that one requirement is that there are certainly no civilians, or nearly no civilians, in the areas that are being targeted. So that's their argument to justify these strikes.
And the Independent, meanwhile, is focusing on the political situation in Yemen as well.
That's right. Very bleak picture today in the Independent. It talks about a land of death, dust, and despair. Yemen is unfathomably complicated in its divisions. It's ravaged by civil war. Yemen is a mess even by failed state standards. That's what the Independent says in its editorial. It makes Somalia look like Sweden, and the international community isn't helping. Unfortunately, Yemen's agonies look set to intensify. Instability is still ahead, according to the Independent.
China now. A dog festival is once again in the spotlight there.
That's right. This is the Yulin Dog Festival. It's not really the cute dog festival you might imagine. It's a dog meat festival, actually.
Ooh, nice.
And each year, tens of thousands of dogs and sometimes cats are actually slaughtered and eaten. You can read about it here in Quartz. Now, this has drawn condemnation across the world. The Independent reports about animal campaigners who are trying to get this festival banned. There's a global social media campaign that took off a couple of weeks ago. For instance, hashtag Stop Yulin 2015 is trending on Twitter. There's a Facebook group with more than 17,000 likes. But these websites are banned in China. And actually, the Independent reports that in China, there are lots of netizens who are against this foreign finger wagging. They say this is a Chinese custom. And it's true, according to the Independent, the consumption of dog meat has been around before written history. And a lot of these Chinese defenders of the festival say if we stop eating dog, well, Americans should stop eating turkey at Thanksgiving.
Well, is it the same or not? I'll leave you to make the decision. Now, finally, there's a major change in the works. This is for a US banknote.
That's right. It's official. A woman will be on the new $10 banknote. There were rumors that this was going to happen. Well, according to a lot of U.S. media, it's in the works. This is the Treasury Secretary, Jack Lew, who announced yesterday that a woman will be featured. She'll be joining Alexander Hamilton on the new $10 note. He actually called for input from the public, so if you want to give your 2 cents worth or $10 worth, you can use the hashtag the new 10. Now, he'll actually unveil his choice by the end of the year. The new note will go into circulation in 2020, which is very symbolic because that'll be the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which, of course, gave women the right to vote. So who is going to be on the $10 note? Well, the criteria are that this woman has to actually be dead. It has to be a woman who deeply represents American democracy as well. So let the bets begin. We actually talked about it in the newsroom earlier. There's one very popular candidate, that's Rosa Parks. Also, Eleanor Roosevelt, Marilyn Monroe came up as well. There are all sorts of unsung heroes, though. So if you want to give your 2 cents worth, you can tweet hashtag the new 10 and give your own opinion.
It's difficult, isn't it, trying to work out, particularly as they have to be dead. But anyway, yeah, we'll leave it to you to think of some suggestions as well for that note in the US. You can suggest it to them, perhaps. Thanks a lot, Flo. Flo with the paper, Steve.